All right. I'd like to begin by calling your attention to the very obvious. We humans are extraordinarily good at transforming the world around us, and pretty much everything in this room tonight is testament to this, from the chairs beneath you, to the lights above you, to the clothes you're wearing, to the conditioned air that you're breathing, to the digital performance you're seeing before you right now. And crucially on that list is me, myself, Max Jackson, here seen at the tender age of 5, sporting a bowl cut and a super fresh Prodigy dial-up internet connection, and looking so very excited to send his very first email. But today, 20 years later, and it's just another part of the routine. It's just another unexamined part of who I am and what it's like to be me. And it's kind of like this with all technologies, even the stuff that I'm working on today. Right now, I'm working on stuff from neural tissue engineering to open source brain-computer interfacing, and just kind of doing my sincere best to give neuroscience new tools to take it in directions it's never been able to go before. Now, if I and people like me are lucky enough to succeed, I think that neuroscience is going to go the way of the email. It's going to just go become another daily part of it. Now, this is going to be good because this ear was grown in a petri dish, and we're getting good at growing brains in petri dishes too. Now, if you have a brain, it will fall apart someday, rest assured, either through trauma or disease or just good old-fashioned decay. And it'd be really nice to be able to replace parts of your brain when they break, so that we can focus on more important things, like figuring out how to extend your mind whenever it's healthy. This is an EEG. You saw me wearing one 2 slides ago, and they're getting affordable enough that you could go home tonight and place an order for one and have it show up to your house. This is going to let us do new things with our minds we've never been able to do before, from the relatively ordinary things like increase our focus to big whiz-bang stuff like make the world directly responsive to our human intentions. But if you're kind of concerned about using technology to change the human condition, I want to assuage your views by arguing that we've been doing this for as long as there have been humans. We've always been trying to think of new techniques, new conceptual tools to get ourselves to do stuff that we wouldn't ordinarily be able to do, and neuroscientific tools are just another branch of that tree. But all this kind of begs an important question. When we're talking about self, what is a self? Exactly. We love to take pictures of it, whatever it is. So I don't want to deploy some elaborate theory of self for you. I just kind of want to point out that we at least seem to have one, and that we also seem to be surrounded by other selves. And this is a crucial point, because when it comes to ourselves, we kind of define ourselves in terms of other selves. From day one, some other people gave birth to you, other people gave you a name, other people gave you a language, other people gave you a culture, other people incentivize certain parts of you and discourage other parts of you. We use words like mother, father, husband, wife, gay, straight, queer to define ourselves in terms of how we relate to other people. Now, this sort of relationship that we have is due to something called empathy, the sort of capacity that we have to experience another mind, its pains, its desires, almost as vividly as if it were our own. Now, this sort of capacity is not unique to humans. It's something you'll find in pretty much anything with a sophisticated neural system, such as this little monkey right here. And this is all mediated by a system in the brain called the mirror neuron system. Now, to dramatically oversimplify, which is most of what I'm about to say, this system is active whenever you're doing something or whenever you see somebody else doing something. You're sort of able to experience somebody else's actions as if they were your own. You're able to duplicate this move whenever you get home later because you see me do it and you instantly know how it works. Now, this capacity to simulate other people leads us to do some pretty insane things. Like, our Western culture is full of epic stories of people doing stuff like eating the forbidden fruit, launching 1,000 ships, betraying their family, betraying their country, betraying their gods, doing all sorts of stuff that under pretty much any other circumstance would be considered hilariously irrational. And this is because it affects our motivation. This little red stuff here is called the nucleus accumbens, this tiny little nut in the side of your brain that's part of the system that's responsible for motivation and anticipated reward. Now, drugs of addiction are usually addictive to the extent that they stimulate this part of us. The more the stimulation, the more the addiction. And love is absolutely no different. Love stimulates this part of our brain more than a lot of other things do. It even changes the way that our cells talk to each other on a cellular level. Now, neurons talk to each other through electrochemical signaling. So basically, whenever an electrical signal gets to the end of one neuron, it gets turned into chemicals called neurotransmitters, gets picked up by the next neuron, turned back to an electrical signal. Now, every drug known to man works by messing with this neurotransmitter system, and love is no different. There's this hormone called oxytocin, which you'll probably hear about as soon as you look into anything about love, which is saturated in our brain during moments of maximum human intimacy, during orgasm, during childbirth, during breastfeeding. This chemical currency is sort of the bond that sort of unites us whenever we're in these moments. But this kind of begs the question, if we can use drugs to impact these neurotransmitter systems, can we do this with love too? So you could probably go out and buy these pheromones which purport to make you attractive to the sex of your choice. They're not that effective. You'd have to spray them directly up the nose of the beloved in order to get them to respond. Not the most seductive turn on, but This is kind of part of a way of approaching love that I think is kind of anathema. There's also conceptual tools, like the whole pickup artist scene, which are largely a set of books written by straight guys who believe they're completely entitled to sex at all times, and will figure out how ways to make you do it and trick you into it whether you want to or not. And I think that is absolutely the opposite of what legitimate human connection is, i.e. treating people as objects. But I don't want to suggest that all tools of love are bad. There is the very excellent OkCupid, a digital tool that uses surprisingly simple math to connect you with compatible people based on information that you share. The more you share, the more honest you are, the more effective the tool. And this is really nice. It incentivizes a positive human behavior. But this kind of brings me to the point that I'd like to make about this whole thing, is that the best tool for love is not neural, it is not conceptual, it is not digital, it is a complete absence of any tools at all. Now, they say that all is fair in love and war, and this may be true, but when it comes to love, victory is surrender. It is the complete and utter absence of expectations of what another person is supposed to do and how you're supposed to get them to do it. Now, the parents in the audience will probably understand the value of self-sacrifice, and I want to assure you that this has rewards even down to the neural level. Children who have experienced love in their lives generally have stronger hippocampuses than those who don't. Hippocampus being a part of the brain largely responsible for learning and memory. So through love, we are able to create stronger children who can then create a future that is better that we can imagine. But the infinite is also at stake too. If we conceive of eternity not as infinite temporal duration, but as timelessness, then eternal life belongs to those who live in the present moment. And for me, the way that I seek my present is through the presence of the people that I love. That's the best way that I can do it. The rest is beyond my words. Nobody knows exactly what it is. We're all discovering this together, but for me, love is what makes human life worth living.
Thank you, Max.